Diversify. Yeah, we're coming together, beat by beat, in the streets where the heartbeats meet. Step up, step in, feel the rhythm of change. From the corners of the world, we're rearranging the game. Forces loud, spirit strong, we roll with a diverse crew. Breaking barriers, building bridges, anything we do. Rise up, unite, let's make it right. With every word we speak, we light up the night. Light it up, help for all, it's our call. Let's break down the wall, together we stand tall. City laws, through city lights to rule. Sights we're spreading the word. Every boy, every girl deserves to be heard. Equity and health, that's the wealth we distribute. Striving for inclusion, there's no substitute. Drop the beat, not the hope, let's celebrate. Break the stage till the breaks, no time to wait. We navigate the challenges, we innovate. Diverse minds collaborate to create a better state. Yeah, DJ Diversity Buddy out.
Welcome, Diversity Trials and Tribulations.
I missed that song, Mitch. It's been a while. I've had DAP and me in my head for a while.
Yep, that's what happens when we get on these spin-off series. It's good to be back. Good to kick off the, I guess, more normal podcast series, bringing guests on and hearing about their background and their stories and what it is that they're doing. Everyone who follows us should know that essentially the guests we try to bring on kind of share this same passion with Diversity Trials. And I would imagine everybody who listens and attends these podcasts as well. But, it's really a deep focus. And what we like to explore and dive into these conversations is about, making sure that clinical trials represent diverse populations and addressing like healthcare disparities and all that we face. And how we like to do that is bringing on guests that can help highlight these issues, especially through lived experiences. So without further ado, our guest today, Mr. Kion Wilson.
Hi, Kion. How's it going?
Good. How are you guys?
Doing well.
Oh my gosh.
It's been a long week. A lot of Mondays so far.
Yep, 5 Mondays in a row, right?
It seems like it all the time. Kion, you definitely get that as, business owner, right? So thanks for coming on. I'm so glad we were able to connect with you a little bit before this. You and I actually haven't had a chance to really sit down together and have this conversation. So this is like our first time actually kind of connecting and be able to chat with each other too, which is really exciting for me. I would love it. I've looked at your website, I've read through it, strongly encourage everyone to check out sunshineresearchsolutions.com and review everything that it is that you're doing, your about section as well. But I would love to hear, I think along with everyone else, about your why, like what got you to where you are now?
Thank you. So I've attended a couple, I'm sorry, my audio is a little messed up. Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
yes,
perfect.
Sir.
Okay. I'll start with saying I attended a conference earlier this year, and there was a young lady takes the stage and she goes, by show of hands, how many people in here knew they would end up in clinical research? And there's a room of a couple thousand people and not a single person raised their hand. And that resonated with me because of my history, the path that I've taken. It's been untraditional, but I absolutely love where I am. I'm very passionate about what we're doing and the mountains that we're looking to climb at this point. I'll share a personal story that relates to myself. My daughter, diagnosed with asthma, hospitalized 3 separate occasions prior to her first birthday. First time RSV, second time double lung pneumonia, third time HMV. The medications that she was on were not working for her. And fortunately for me, being exposed and in the industry that I currently am, I knew to search more. I knew to find answers. I knew not to give up and accept where we were. We approached her pediatrician, explained a couple of things that were going on, and we were able to come up with a treatment plan that actually works for her and to God's grace, she hasn't had any issues related to asthma that she was diagnosed with coming up on a year now. So we're very fortunate and blessed to be where we are. So um, this mission to be more inclusive with medications that are coming to the market definitely is something that I stand behind. I'm directly affected by it, and I want to be able to be that pillar in the community to take research to the underserved community.
Yeah, I love that. And it really couldn't align more with, our values as well. I've been in the industry since 2005. A lot of people know my story, so I'm not going to get into that, like how I got involved. But the longer I spent in industry, I started finding myself more invested and interested in these problems that I kept identifying. And that's it. It's healthcare and research equity is like the biggest issue that I was able to find. And that's why, I worked towards starting the Clinical Research Justice League and all that as well. That was to kind of address those issues, bring everyone together, kind of create this like roundtable. And that's why we got you on the podcast. We got to give people a platform, come together as a team and a community to help elevate, research industry as a whole to kind of address these issues and these healthcare disparities. But yeah, I mean, you couldn't be, I imagine that resonates so well with many people. It's touching for me too, personally. Like when I was a kid, I struggled with asthma when I was young as well. And then had pertussis when I was real young. It was all like before my first birthday and whatnot too. So it's like my mom would always tell me, it's like, you stop breathing in my arms so many times. And as a parent, I fortunately haven't had to deal with that as a parent. My daughter has like allergies and stuff, but it's not quite the same as not being able to breathe. But that's definitely an interesting one. And your road less traveled, if you will, to get here is kind of unique as well. In the title, why did a retired NFL linebacker start a clinical research site, right? So it's no secret that you were previously in the NFL. As a linebacker, I got to say, you and I almost like diametrically opposed there, because when I played ball when I was younger, I was the full spectrum of running back, is tail half and full. So you and I would have faced off quite a bit. 2004, like the Honolulu Star Bulletin called me a wide receiver though. So maybe I'll take that and just stay away from getting smashed by Kion. But no, I mean, that's an interesting path. Like how, I guess I'm intrigued and I'm interested to know like kind of what that transition really looked like for you, because everybody like falls into this industry, right? Like we all tend to stumble into it in some fashion or another. It's not normal really for anybody, but how does that happen? Like, right? How do you go from being a ball player to getting into clinical research?
So one of the things that I can say that differentiated myself from a lot of my colleagues that played football at the time was I never was content. Football, I was good at football, but it wasn't my life. So off the field, I always took on other opportunities. I wanted to expand. I've always had the entrepreneurial mindset. I've started, this is my second company that I've actually started. I franchised a healthy vending machine company right out of football, but I retired in 2014 and I got into medical device sales. So my background, I have a very strong sales background. I sold durable medical equipment, and then I was fortunate enough to land a position with Stryker Spine, a very large orthopedic company that's local to Tampa. I marketed to orthopedic surgeons or neurosurgeons. I got them to agree to use my product, and then I accompanied them in surgery. So not only did I have a high level of sales training, but we had to be clinical as well. And that's what I enjoyed most, was the patient interaction, understanding how to read CTs, MRIs, how to be able to be that resource to these patients that a lot of people don't even know is an option to them. I did very well. I hit my quota multiple years in a row. My daughter was born, and I knew that I had to do something about my schedule. I wanted to be present. I knew that I could provide a comfortable living for her, but I didn't want to miss those precious moments that I'll never get back. So I started to explore different opportunities. I searched high and low. looked at the franchise route, and then I was proposed with the opportunity to have a partnership in the business of clinical research. It was something that I took a high level overview and really analyzed, and then I saw the lack. I saw what was missing in this industry, and everybody knows people do business with people that look like them, right? And there aren't many minority site owners. There aren't many people that can go into the community and make a meaningful impact. There aren't many people. Like, how do you gain someone's trust? And that's the one thing that we're doing. We're often posed, like, when I'm coming in, like, as funny as it may seem, clinical research, at least the patient recruitment aspect, it's 90% objection handling. And that's the same thing sales is. All I'm doing is I'm debunking myths, and I'm handling objections. So having the ability to objection handle and tell patients that some of the data that they have it's not true at all, or some of the myths that surround clinical research, those things aren't true at all. So it was something that was natural for me. So after taking this deep dive and looking into the industry and seeing where I could fit, it was something that was a no-brainer for me, and especially with my daughter going through what she was experiencing at the time.
Yeah.
So Kion, I have to ask you, and I'm trying to put myself in your shoes here. So you had a daughter who was suffering from asthma and complications of asthma, hospitalized many, many times. And you had mentioned that with your mindset that you knew in research that you needed to dig deeper, you wanted to solve problems, you wanted to figure things out. How did you connect watching your daughter hurt, watching your daughter suffer, to all of the problem solving things that you had mentioned to try to find a solution for her?
So, and I'll share that you shared with me about your daughter and what happened. And that, I mean, I literally, I had to hold back tears after you shared with me about it. Just understanding the bigger impact. Fortunately, I want to say it's only asthma, right? How many other rare diseases? How many other sickle cell, leukemia? How many other therapeutic areas where there's a major lack of diversity, or there's a major lack, there is no current help in those areas? One of the main reasons I left my job, other than wanting to be there for my daughters, I felt like I have a greater impact. I always felt like I could do more. I was really good at my job. The people that I immediately affected, they loved me. I was good at what I did, but I wanted to expand outside of the walls of the operating room. I wanted to affect more lives, and this is the chance to really, I can make it a world impact starting right here in Tampa, Florida. I can open up an additional site. Options are endless, and the impact that is needed, this is the platform for me to do that.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
So aside from like the research equity too, it's not, we're not shy about it here. And I mean, we had a previous guest on, Raven, and the first one we did is like, we ended up going down this rabbit hole. And we're talking about like redlining, right? So like this systemic issue where you talk about these inequities that have been in place. That's just how they are. So there's a guy I follow, and I'm sure many people might also follow him on like LinkedIn as well. But his name's Joel Burville. It's a fantastic voice. He is essentially like a medical myth buster, and a lot of what he talks about is healthcare disparities. And he had one yesterday that was like beyond just like the science of it. He highlighted a nursing textbook that was released in 2015. So it's not like it's that old of a book either. But there's a whole section that he went through about acute and chronic pain. And, it just essentially used a bunch of stereotypes, without any like supporting evidence, just to understand patients and ethnic or cultural differences. And it's just like, Hispanic patients may complain about having greater pain than, and it's like, what are you talking about? Like, there's no evidence-based information in here. So it's like, it's stuff like that. And interestingly enough, as we go down this path and we talk about like healthcare disparities and these comparisons as well, is one of the highlighting points is it's kind of clear when you take that like step back from the text as well. It's like, okay, we're looking at this and it's like there's all these different ethnic groups or religious backgrounds, right? And there's all these different issues that they talk about and how they're different culturally or ethnically when they're talking about pain. But it doesn't mention anything about what that like Caucasian white normal standard is, because it's written from that perspective, which is remarkably interesting and just kind of further addresses like this obvious issue with healthcare disparities. Like how are you going to talk about how different subsects of people experience pain, or from this perspective, but like don't have any text regarding how like Caucasian people experience pain? Well, it's because it's written from you. So it's all biases. It's like clearly all biases, which is wild. It's a textbook, but pretty crazy. And, I think we are trying to work towards addressing some of these things. Like I know, Kion, you're familiar that we just wrapped up like that whole podcast series on diversity action plans and kind of like identifying and poking holes in what the FDA draft guidance is for diversity action plans and how we can improve, these healthcare and research disparities among the underrepresented and underserved populations, which is the minority populations, right? I guess my question for you then is, as far as what you guys are facing as a research site, has there been any initiatives or anything that you've done that you found to be maybe successful in your community with promoting health equity?
Absolutely. Partnerships. I mean, we know the power of relationships in this industry. I can't tell you how it sucks. It's Florida. It's 98 degrees outside, and we're at this community event, and it is 12 o'clock in the afternoon. I have boob sweat coming through my shirt. We have little fans that are barely working, but we're there because we're trying to make the relationships in our community. I'm very transparent with every referral source, every potential patient, with everybody we deal with. It all starts with education for us. We're not showing up for the first time asking anyone to sign up or take this study drug. We want to provide you with solutions that you didn't have prior to meeting us. That's our leading goal. Is I'll give an example. We recently met with an insurance broker who helps patients get Medicare insurance, and it's open enrollment period, and we're potentially discussing him sharing his database with me. And he goes, Kion, I care about my people just like you would, but how do I know that I'm doing what's best for them? And then I told him, I say, hey, we're not here to trick or connive anyone. We're simply here to educate. And that's what it starts with. And I let them know the informed consent process. It's ultimately at the patient's discretion. And then the next biggest thing was understanding what research means to these individuals, right? For us doing clinical research, this is research to us. For some doctors doing research in undergrad, we understand what that research is. But when serving the underserved community, to them, research might simply be a conversation with their niece who's a nurse, or a conversation with their brother-in-law who heard something about a clinical trial on TV. We've done about 6 community events this year, and just being able to get in front of individuals and debunk some of these myths that they're hearing. Some people are very reluctant for very valid reasons, but if we could leave with providing them solutions that they didn't have prior, that's part of it. And then we also have where patients, anyone who's interested, they can fill out a quick little demographic, and we can stay in contact with them and follow up about potential enrolling clients. But to answer your question, the number one thing that we've done to be the most beneficial is get out in the community. It's as many things as we're juggling in house at the research site. We're not limiting our time on the weekends. We're sacrificing personal time. I'm taking my daughters to these events where we're boots on the ground and we're becoming a recognizable face, so that when we do get the right study for this right patient population, we're not new. They've already answered the questions.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Yes. Oh my, that Kion, that right there, boob, sweat and all, that is the dream. That is amazing. It's almost like the enrollment of a trial isn't the primary objective. It's a consequence of building relationships and trust throughout your community. Bravo. Very, I mean, like I'm so excited to hear the community advocates out there building something in their community to help them, to help future generations. Oh my gosh, very, very well done.
Yeah. I mean, empowering your community to take ownership in their own healthcare equity. They're creating that healthcare equity for themselves and for future generations. That's what we talk about all the time. And I really love your approach, and kind of what you were saying there too, is because oftentimes when it comes to community engagement, it drives me nuts. It's so transactional. And like, you're a business owner, I'm a business owner. Like, we get it, right? There is this aspect of return on investment, ROI, right? But to me, those community engagement opportunities are those opportunities to actually, that people are allowing you to communicate with them, right? Like, I feel privileged being able to engage with community members, like just getting in the door, right? But it's this form of unconditional community engagement is what I like to call it. And it's being there for all the things, right? Having a cookout, going to the community center, like doing like little libraries or whatever it may look like, that you're doing something to help provide and support the community, and then creating this opportunity just to be there for them when something comes up, and then they know they can come to you, right? And
Absolutely.
you're not just reaching out like, oh, hey, we've got this diabetic trial and you have this listed in your EMR we got from your physician, so let us know. People see right through that.
They always say if that's the first time you talk to someone is when you want them to be on a trial, it's too late. You should have, you need to be, like you said, in front of them so that they know you. I want to get to some of these comments real quick, but then I have a quick question for you, Kion. We'll move on. So Alicia Moore, she's a big fan. She said this is very empowering. She loves it. And look, Kion, that's her goal in her community. I think Alicia's in Missouri. So we got some Midwestern people. They want to do the same thing. So you're already inspiring people. They want to do something like that too. Alicia, or if anyone's listening out there, if you have any questions about any challenges that you're running into, maybe Kion has some insight on that. We have a LinkedIn user saying, no better time than the present. That kind of perspective is a gift, truly. Sometimes it's really hard to get your mind out of the weeds and to really think about things in the present so you can get things done. And finally, Kion, follow up. I need Kion on my podcast. So Alicia's already got there. She'd like to have a conversation with you as well. So Kion, you had mentioned you have definitely identified a significant unmet need that we know has to be solved. We have something that needs to be filled. And I am so very thankful that you are running into that you are solving it. You're taking the lead. Your solution is Sunshine Research Solutions, right? That's the name of your site. And it sounds like Sunshine is turning into a community-based hub, like a service hub that can bring education and information, and like you said, debunk myths to communities who might not be trusting or might be questioning, or maybe they're misinformed. But then at the same time, it is also acting as a hub to bring those patients who do trust you, who have created relationships with you, to bring them trials from the industry, throughout the industry. So can you walk me through, like, I know did you just wake up one day and say, you know what, I want to build a site? Or like, what's the evolution or the progression of Sunshine? And where do you want to see that go?
So I mentioned I had a partnership opportunity, and I was took a high level overview just with the intentions of being an owner. I started out learning the research coordinator aspect. I shadowed the physicians throughout a lot of the assessments. I even the medical assistants when they were drawing blood or giving injections. I learned the operations from the top down just to so that I know how to manage and what type of owner I want it to be. It The mission was very clear to me that this is where I needed to be. Um, there's such a huge gap when it comes to being able to connect. I remember speaking to a couple site owners. I won't mention any names, but this is when inclusivity in clinical trials was the hot topic, right? It's like the DEI is the most prevalent thing. And one of the owners says to me, he goes, "There's no ROI on that." It's like, it's yeah. It's like that how do you count that? How do you turn that into something tangible? And unfortunately, like that is what I feel set us apart. It's like we are still in the ramp up phase. Let's do it right. I'd be foolish. The Florida market is a very competitive market in research, right? There's some sponsors that won't even touch the area. But if I wanted to come into an already saturated market, how do I differentiate myself? How do I stand out among that? And for me, being a new site, it wasn't me going in and changing anything that I was already doing. It's building the recipe around what the industry needs, what the industry is calling for. So it was a very simple process for us to implement. So prior to the proposed diversity action plan being released, we were already there. We were already doing all of these things. And I was so happy that that piece of literature came out because I recently had a presentation with a very large network of internal meds, family medicine. They one-stop shop. Last year they saw over 114,000 patients, and they've been contemplating getting into research, but just didn't know how to get there. They're a non-for-profit, and they've been looking at exploring different opportunities, but I knocking on doors, right? Having the conversations, speaking with these individuals and simply proposing what opportunities we have and being able to use the FDA's mandated or their guideline on how we should navigate this. It strategically aligned with exactly what I was doing. So I was able to present this to this organization, and we're hopefully following up and can come to resolution and be able to work together. But to answer your question, where do I see Sunshine going? Options are endless. I want to invest everything into our first site, and then the goal is to eventually expand. I would love to touch more people. I would love to. I mean, there's certain areas of town, everybody, not even rural, just underserved communities. There's certain areas where you ask. The crazy thing about it is my new conversation that I have with everybody. Oh, I saw you left your job. What do you do now? I was like, oh, clinical research. They're like, cool. So what is that? Right. Yeah. And it's like every person, like, it's like nobody knows what it is. It's such a huge industry. It's a very, very big market. And there's so many people that still don't know. And that's what I'm excited about, is because I get to inform people. I get to educate people. I get to send them home with something to speak about to their significant others, to their children, and just open so many other doors.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly. I run into that too. It's always, oh, what do you do? Clinical research. Oh yeah, what do you study? Clinical research. It's like they think that you're in a certain research trial or something. It's not like a generalized, this is what we do. It's industry-wide clinical trials. And
you're in
I
a
run
lab
the
with
same thing. You'd be surprised how many coffee shops you go to where nobody knows.
That's what I was gonna say.
Research. It doesn't matter where it is. Any good coffee shops in Tampa, Kion?
Ton. Yeah. Daniel's gonna get all those people on a podcast someday.
Oh, someday we'll just have coffee shop talks. But
yeah.
So I guess my big question to you, Kion, is just having you on here, talking about your story, talking about where you're going, what you're doing, literally inspiring people in the audience, inspiring us. Is I have the natural inkling to I want you to succeed. I want to help you so that you can help your community and we can help this industry and we can actually make a dent into a lot of the underserved populations and disparities that we see. So the big question is, what can we as an industry do to help you with your vision?
The biggest thing is it's very, very backwards, and I'll mention a little bit about our nonprofit. And you mentioned us being a hub, and we've created a nonprofit that aligns very closely with our research site. And what we're doing is we're taking a little different approach where we are passing out literature about making healthy decisions, diet, eating right. We know cardiovascular disease is the leading cause of death in the United States, right? Everybody's prescribing medications, but like, let's talk about how we got there. And my team, my staff, our doctors are on board. One of my doctors is a nutritionist, and he's attended a couple of our community events with us, and we're sharing this knowledge. So as we're at our community events, we're providing free health screenings, meeting up and teaming up with any health expos. They're so happy to have us there. They most of the time it's free entry, if any entry fee at all. They want us there. They want us to provide these resources to these individuals, and that's what we're doing. So our resource hub aligns very closely with what we're doing, and we have a mentorship program where we have partnered with local nonprofits in the area. Everybody knows you go to apply for a clinical research job, they want 3 years experience, 5 years experience. How do you get research experience without having research experience, right? It's the fly or the magnet or however you want it. It's such a huge hurdle to climb. And for us, it's the same thing. Like, how do you get this sponsor to work with you and take this chance on you without having the prior experience? We've built a phenomenal team. We have the facilities, we have everything, the infrastructure in place. We're waiting for the right opportunity. So the biggest help from this podcast would be someone willing to take that chance on us and take a deeper dive at what we're doing and how we're doing things and make a meaningful change together.
I love that. Call to action for sponsors.
You mentioned nonprofit. So what is the name of the nonprofit that are you running it or work with it or partner? How does that work?
So I'm a partner in the nonprofit. My business partner, Kaylee, and I, we both run it together. It's been officially formed for about, I want to say 5 or 6 months now. Accelerate Change Today is the name of the nonprofit.
Nice.
Perfect. That's such a good synergistic mission, and it's something that you can help each other with. So where are you on the research side level? How are you on trials? What do you have to offer? What about your infrastructure? Is there anything that you're targeting right now as far as trials?
So we have a very unique team. We have an asthma immunologist, a dermatologist, a geriatrician, a psychologist, and another internal med with a sports medicine background. That being said, we had a PSA for a psychosis associated with Alzheimer's 2 weeks ago, and we're waiting to hear back. And then actually an hour before we got on our call, we had another pediatric asthma PSA. So we're feeling very confident about that one. I'm hoping we can move forward. Another thing I didn't mention, which is huge news, I haven't spoken to you since, but Parexel has been, they offered a site scholarship program that they recently started. This is the first year of them doing it. They had 200 applications. They narrowed it down to 15, and we were selected as one of the finalists for that.
Wow. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. So we were one of 10 sites that have been selected for that. So that gives us free admission to the SCRS Global Summit down in Hollywood later this month. We have a mentor inside of the Parexel organization, as well as I've been assigned a mentor outside of the organization who has very, very deep experience with the research. He has over 20 research sites. So it's a huge opportunity for us to be more visible and just having someone in our corner vouching for us. So you mentioned how could that help? This opportunity is already opening doors for us. And if there's anyone interested in continuing speaking, I have my email attached down below. I'd love to hear more, but just opening doors and taking chances and allowing the new guy on the block to shine. Like, we have so much to offer, and we really would like to bring more inclusive research with new patients to the market.
Wow.
I love that. It's absolutely fantastic. I mean, we align so much with like the education aspect and hitting that first. You know, I know my company, we partner with like external nonprofits as well. This is one that's Diverse Research Now, and that's what they do is they educate communities. They don't help find people or align them with trials or anything. They're just there to be those advocates on patient journeys through clinical research, combating healthcare and research misinformation like you're talking about. And then as we continue, like I'm always striving to see what we can do to make things better, make these barriers less of a hurdle for people to have to climb to get into research or know what research is. More recently, we've collaborated with Clinical Research Learning Network and helped them to kind of develop these free modules on their platform. They offer like some other like GCP and stuff as well for industry professionals, but they have free modules now for patients and what that like journey looks like, what your informed consent is, what your rights are as a patient. So it kind of gives people like this overview and this confidence even before they hit their door sometimes to go have those conversations with research sites. And just today I got a message from them earlier that they even have a pediatric patient-specific one on what like that journey through pediatric trials. Same thing with journey specifically through oncology studies. So it's all about like this deep passion for educating the community and empowering the community is massive. And I couldn't agree more that that's kind of this pivotal role in making sure that patients understand, their role in the industry is the most important, right? It's the most vital role in the industry. And then we just need to, in my opinion, continue at the site level. We need to push our expectations up because everything in the industry always comes top down. It's like FDA sponsors and what sponsors can do and how they can finagle like FDA language and guidance to submit those INDs, right? How are we going to get this drug approved as easily as possible? What corners can we cut in this like iron triangle to try to make things, cheaper or faster or streamline this in any way? But we have to do better. And I think us as site organizations need to continue to have those conversations and empower each other to push back up and say, look, this is what we're doing. This is how we're collecting data, right? We're getting granular with our race and ethnicity data to be as inclusive and representative as possible with what we're collecting. And we expect that of you too, like as a CRO or sponsor, data management organization. We expect you to do what we're going to do to make sure that the data is as good as it's going to get. That's my added call to action there too, because it's there's only so much that we can do, right? Kion, I think we kind of get to this point, and maybe you feel it differently than I do as well, for sure. But it's stressful, being a business owner and research as well, because we're facing these hurdles constantly, and it's like we feel like we could do better, and we know that the industry as a whole can do better and it needs to do better, but it's just like where these hurdles are, where these obstacles are, is just almost with other organizations. It's not people, it's not the public that's the problem. It's not patients that's the problem. It's like
Mhm.
recruiting is an issue, and everybody talks about like, oh, recruiting patients is tough. And yeah, I get it. It might be difficult to recruit patients for studies, but like there's barriers that have been pre-established that are already in place. Access to trials because of where you are in the US and how densely populated your city is. It's like, well, we'll just hit these big cities because there's more people there. So we'll enroll our trial faster. It's easier. But we're excluding so many other patients. And it's hard because we need to reach all those people.
Yeah, Kion, I was going to ask that. Sorry, I was going to ask you that. So you had mentioned it's like you have this passion, you want to bring this to your community, and you had said, I just need someone to give the new guy on the block a chance. I just need a chance. So as you are engaging with these big organizations, you're filling out feasibilities. Um, like, could you tell me an example of some of the times where you've got everything put together, but they're just not giving you a chance? And it sounds like you're getting over that hurdle. So how did you get over that hurdle?
So we'll give an example of we're filling out a feasibility questionnaire, and it asks, has your site completed a study in this therapeutic area? And small answer is it's a brand new research site, right? Like, of course not.
Yeah.
And oftentimes that's the end of the road, right? We try to be truthful with our practices. But I'm learning. I have mentors in the space, and will say that it's very I operate as ethical as possible in everything that I try to do. And when I first started out, I had a consulting company, and when they were helping fill out feasibility questionnaires, and the comment was, I say, hey, they asked how many patients can I enroll, and then he goes, well, just add about 15%. I was like, wait, what? And he's like, well, they'll assume you're lying anyway, so their math plus your math equals somewhere in the middle. And that was a big hurdle for me to have to do what we had to do. And as I've been working with different vendors, I've learned how to frame things, how to paint the picture. And then when the conversation comes, you be able to articulate that or be able to elaborate on those specific things a little more to provide clarity. And I think, to be honest, like some of the conversation, like, and this is another thing that my business partner and I, we struggle with and we talk about quite often, the communication and the follow-up is absolutely horrible. It's absolutely horrible. We'll sit down and we'll do an hour PowerPoint presentation on all of our community outreach efforts, all of the referral sources, our entire team, and then they disappear. And then we feel as if they got the information that they needed, took it back to their higher ups to appease them in that moment, and we hear nothing. And then 6 months down the road, we get another email, hey, can you present to my team again or present to someone else on our team? It's like, sure, we'd love to do that. And then the same thing happens. So it's like the follow-up, the finish, it's very frustrating. But at the end of the day, there's so much opportunity out there. We're just waiting for the right one.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Coming from like the ClinOps side too, and Dr. Fox and I have been on other podcasts pretty recently, I think within the last few months, where we did a deep dive just into feasibilities and all the issues around them. So yeah, it's like creating these false patient populations or enrollment goals just because it's the norm that everybody expects. You're supposed to lie about it, and it's expected that you're going to lie about it, and then you find a happy medium. Well, it makes more sense, obviously. Let's just be ethical, like you said, and tell the truth all the time. And then the better you can do with providing supporting evidence or data, like, look, this is where I'm getting this information from, right? I'm not just shooting out a number on a piece of paper because it just came to the top of my head, that's fantastic. But you're spot on with like this aspect of to appease the higher ups, because that's essentially what that forecasting aspect is, right? It's from the ClinOps side, you want to kind of do early feasibilities and kind of get this expectation of how many you could potentially enroll in a study, and you're not even going to remotely use all these sites. And that was incredibly frustrating to see from the ClinOps side. Part of the reason why, I got frustrated with that aspect of the industry, working with sponsors and CROs, and have, came to the site side, found my way from the dark side into the force. Hopefully be
Or
a
even
little
the
Jedi.
false feasibilities. Like there's sometimes the feasibility, they ask the sites to fill this information because they needed the demographics for their reports. So they'll extract the information from the site and then chuck them. And then there never was an opportunity, unfortunately. And then you either get ghosted or used in many, many different ways. Unfortunately, that's a common practice among the industry, and it's one that can get very frustrating, especially for sites that, like you said, you're starting to start up. I mean, I'm sure that finances are tricky as a startup site. It's not like we have money trees everywhere. So when
it's
people
interesting
do
too,
that.
How the industry kind of pigeonholes you. Kion, to your point, it's like, have you done a trial in this therapeutic area before? Well, maybe your site hasn't specifically done a trial on hypertension before, you know what I mean? But like, what is the limiting factor there? Like, it's not crazy for your like cardiologist, PI or something, to be able to work on a hypertension study. It's not groundbreaking. It's not earth shattering, like difficulty to work on one of these types of trials, especially with like FDA. I mean, now you essentially require like triplicate EKGs on almost every study. So it's just, they're across the board. Everybody has to do them. And it used to kind of only be that like real separator with cardiology related trials as you're doing more EKGs, but not really, not anymore.
So Kion, I meant to ask you, it sounds like you have some very good relationships in your community with physicians. It sounds like you have many of them. What is your access to like ancillaries, labs, radiology scans, ophthalmology specialists? I mean, how is your community solving those problems in a trial where you can access those resources?
So that's one of the key highlights about our facility where we're located. We're in a complex. It's like a strip complex, and it's a medical complex. To the left of us, we have 4 internal medicine physicians who have agreed to be referral sources to us. At the end of the parking lot, we have Acumen, who's an imaging center. They do x-rays, MRI, CTs, PET scans, mammograms, mammograms. Across the parking lot, we have 6 gastroenterologists as well. So we strategically picked this area because of the potential referral sources. We don't have the street visibility that I would have liked, but being that we have all the resources around us, I was okay with taking the chance on this location. And so far, we have working relationships with everyone. We're on board to potentially have a lot of success.
Nice.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, mark my words. I would guess that within the next year, you're going to meet trial capacity, and you'll have to turn down some trials because you've made all of the right decisions as a site owner, as a director, to set yourself up for success.
Yep. So working on scaling and growing sunshine.
All right. So for everyone, if it's okay, we'll go ahead and wrap this one up because I think that we had our conversation. So Kion, is there anything else you'd like to tell the audience before we wrap this up?
I just wanted to thank you guys for allowing me to have this platform. I know, Dr. Fox, we met a couple of months ago at this point. You were very open and transparent, and that's not necessarily the case in this industry. I appreciate how you were willing. I mean, if you don't mind me sharing, like I came to you with questions, right? And you wanted absolutely nothing from me. And I genuinely appreciated that because early on, some of the things that I was faced with, me reaching out for help or potential study collaboration, some of the requests that I've received it put a bad taste in my mouth about the industry. There was some very egregious offers. There was people wanting to own half of my company. There was just a lot of things, and you ironed things out for me and gave me clarity for the trajectory of the future that pretty essentially led us to this point right here. So thank you again for doing that and welcoming me into your circle and my site. And I'm genuinely grateful. Thank you very much.
Absolutely, Kion. This is why we're here. We're here to help each other, empower each other. The path that you're on is exactly the path that we need to be supporting in this community. If you're watching this later, I highly recommend you watch this like 3 times. What Kion is doing and executing right now in our community is exactly what our industry needs to do. Number one is the sites are responsible for the relationships with the patients. It's the sites that are out there, 98-degree heat, making relationships with the patients unconditional. We're here to help you, to serve you. And then as a result of building the trust in your community with these patients, they're going to be the ones to step up and support your trials and enrollment. This is the exact way that we need to do it. And I'm when I heard what you were doing, it excited me, and I'm very, very happy to help.
Yeah, collaboration, not competition.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Trust me, there's plenty of clinical trials that need to be performed. And just like you said, Kion, it's kind of like a weird hidden community within the industry and the nation. Is when you say the word clinical research, you get these deer in the headlight look like, wait, what? I mean, you work with lab animals or what? So there's a lot of education and awareness that has to happen.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Mitch, what about you?
Yeah, I think that's it. That this was fantastic, so insightful. Yeah, I love everything I'm hearing from Kion, the passion, kind of the mission, the core values. I couldn't feel more aligned myself. Yeah, I'm right on board with everything you're doing. Is exactly what we need to be doing. And to my point, it's this aspect that you were talking about, Kion, where it's like you're trying to work with each other in the industry and so many other people. It's like it's like, what can you get out of other people, right? Instead of just trying to like help other people and support each other. And that's what I'm saying. It's collaboration, not competition, and that's what we need more of. It's interesting. I always see how like sites look at other sites as like direct competitors, and you can be in like a totally different state, but it's like, oh, you're my direct competition. It's like, no, the patients are so different, and we just need to help support each other and kind of build this better community, this better supporting community. That's where I'm at.
So it sounds like, Kion, you're going to be in Hollywood, Florida for SCRS Summit. Very special thanks to Parexel for making that happen. If you're at SCRS, please look for Kion's name badge. Find Kion, say, hey, I saw you on a podcast. I love your story, and build a relationship with him. Let's help Kion and Sunshine to really shine, no pun intended, in the industry.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Awesome. All right.
All right.
Well, thanks everyone. We'll catch you next time.
Bye, everyone.